Okay, everybody, Blood Moon Bobby here, back with Stephen and Gaby. It's been a while since we've
Hello!
done one of these discussions. How's it going?
It's going
Good.
good. I don't have to worry about my volume this time, guys. I can go crazy. It's free game right now. I'm
Yeah.
excited. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, so we're here to talk about the news that Warner Brothers is basically going to release their entire 2021 film catalog on HBO Max, which ever since then, the fireworks have gone off at the movie theater chains, metaphorically speaking. And so, like, ever since I did, I know I've done a video talking about, the basic news. I'll actually, if people watching want to know the release dates of these movies, I'll include them in this video. So if you want to pause the video to see what they are, you could do so. But ever since then, it's just been going crazy. The stock prices of a couple movie theater chains have gone down quite a bit. AMC and Cinemark are openly pissed off about this, and so I just wanted to get you two on here to talk about it. So how do you guys feel about the news?
Um, I guess I'll start off saying that I'm very happy with the idea of being able to enjoy releases from the comfort of my home.
Yeah.
Though I do also see, what this is going to potentially mean for the movie theater experience, and the marketability of it, I guess would be the right choice of words, since it could potentially just be seen as a very easy way to just save on some bucks to just have the streaming service for all the movies that you want to, watch when they come out, instead of having to go buy tickets for several people all at the same time. And when you all live, especially when you all live under the same roof, and I see this being a big thing for people who like have younger children or people who have a hard time staying put in the movie theaters and whatnot, because there's always that challenge for like families. It's like how I hope the kids don't make a scene in the movie theater or whatnot and stuff like that. But I mean, obviously, it's not like the experience just has nothing to it at this point, because there is still something to the experience that you have when you walk into a theater and you sit down for a movie. It's just like, are people going to are there going to be enough people who want to invest into it enough, especially given what the conditions are right now for us in the US, to actually go out and do it.
Yeah. Stephen, what do you think of the announcement?
I'm not okay. Before I start being my reasonable self, I'm gonna turn on the switch, and I'm just gonna be a big whiny bitch because I
Okay.
don't want movie theaters to die. I paid for a yearly subscription to Regal just so I can keep on watching through these, and it pretty much got frozen because of this.
Oh,
And
I'm there with you. That
I
was
am
me with theme parks. Like,
and and here's the thing, like I think two tweets in particular that I retweeted pretty much sum up my biggest complaints about this. Like, yes, turning on slightly to reasonable. Yes, I know several people who haven't even been to a movie theater in a while because they're either parents or they just don't like the theater experience or they just plain can't afford it. So I get how this means they can probably watch more movies. Here's the thing where I have to be a bit selfish though, is that I've pretty much been doing the thing where, because coronavirus is a thing, that I've just been keep on trying to watch more and more movies, specifically movies that I haven't gotten to in a while. And I managed to go through a pretty big amount of them. A lot of them are even 4 hours long, but only a portion of those have I actually been able to watch all in one row without any distraction, without having to pretty much plan around just watching pieces of it together. And that's because as close as you try to make a theater experience in your home, unless you're living alone, which you're probably not, especially because of the quarantine, or if you're blessed enough to have, say, a 70-inch screen, which a lot of rooms aren't capable of without pretty much exhausting your wall space or just cracking altogether, it is near impossible to get close to that theater experience anymore. Because, newsflash, you may be sharing a screen when you're watching in a theater, but at least that screen is dedicated to that one thing you paid to see. You're not really going to be able to have that kind of intimate experience, even if you watch it on a tablet. Because guess what? This thing, you might be watching in the middle of something. It might be like a truly emotional scene right there. You're going to get a Discord notification. You're going to get an email. You're going to have a message that says, hey, have you heard of this one thing? You're pretty much always going to have a distraction no matter what. And unlike before, where maybe it was your choice, in this case, it is entirely because of the situation of how you're watching the movie. And so if this means that pretty much theaters are gonna go the way of the dinosaurs, or at the very least, because I'm gonna bring another argument later. If it means that pretty much theaters are just gonna be a luxury item that's specific to just one kind of movie, I'm not happy with this, and I honestly don't care if it gives more opportunities, because it's personally gonna impact how people are actually gonna watch movies to begin with. Like a lot of the movies, like we've heard this complaint before by specific directors of just like how a lot of variety in movies is pushed away to make room for the movies that the general public want to actually pay to see on a bigger screen than in their house. That's going to be even more true now if this is the case, because essentially, now that everything is going to be in a streaming platform, or they can go to the theater, they're only going to want to go to the theater to the big movies. Anything smaller than that, for like, say, indie chains or so, are fucked. Because no one is going to even... Like, anyone who even bothered to drive over to an indie theater when they could, like I used to do, are pretty much screwed, because those theaters are not going to be able to sustain themselves, because anything they're going to be showing, no one's going to actually go to theaters anymore. So I'm just speaking through it as just someone who like sympathizes for filmmakers. Even if you manage to finish a movie, getting a theatrical release is pretty much a privilege at this point. And I'm not happy with that.
And I think that's what we're looking at right now. The fact that we're realizing how much of a privilege it was to just have the opportunity to go to a movie theater in the first place. Because, I mean, obviously it was a lot more accessible, you know, and the risks were a lot lower. But now we get to see, like, oh, hey, now we can actually think about what this means to the general public. And if the general public has an easier way of accessing media, they're going to go for it. That's going to be their choice. Because, I mean, what's going to be easier? Investing on a one-time big screen that you're going to be able to use for a long time and enjoy a lot of movies at a cheap rate? Or go out of your way to figure out, oh, which movies am I going to go watch in the theater, you know, like, for the heck of it. You know, the picture is painted clear, especially for parents. It's going to be like, yeah, of course not. If I could save the time, we could just buy popcorn and put DVDs or get a streaming service and just put it in there. Yeah, the general public is going to eat that up, you know. And again, which is why I say the question now becomes, are there going to be enough people when we get back interested enough in the experience, have missed it so much and kind of like been waiting for the opportunity to continue to go do that, when this new opportunity to just do it from the comfort of their home is going to be so accessible. You know, I mean, I'm going to admit, like I said before, I am a fan of being able to just enjoy stuff in my house. Although, again, as far as the privilege goes, I'm talking to you guys with a computer hooked up to like a, I don't know how big TV screen.
Yeah,
That I hooked up to my
Yeah.
computer.
and not
you
just
know?
that, and not just that. It's a TV screen within your own room.
Yes, and
Yeah.
I share my room with nobody.
Yeah,
Right.
So the privilege is definitely there. Like, don't get me wrong. But I mean, it's like when we're looking at this at like a lower income family, this is also a big opportunity for them because it's like, okay, so we could just have our own personal movie night within the family, and I could just sit the kids and they could be doing whatever the heck they want with all the toys, and I don't have to worry about some manager coming to me asking me to keep my kids quiet. Hell yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
You know?
yeah. So in terms of like how I personally feel about it, in my prior video, I'll admit that I was very scatterbrained about how I felt about the announcement. For me, it's more like I'm a fan of this. If this is like, if as Warner puts it, this like they're running around, they're trying not to, piss off movie theaters. They're saying, this is coronavirus only. We're not looking into like, thinking about what's going to happen in the following years. This is just for 2021. And if coronavirus doesn't go away, and if people are still kind of skittish or going back to movie theaters, which that might also be like another, raise the big question of, will people feel comfortable of going back? Like, even if like when the pandemic goes away, will they feel safe about this? So I think for me, it's because so far, like, we haven't really heard too much from other studios. And this is why, like, I think that
the thing is, can I just say that? I don't think you really need to wait because guess what? Think of all of the streaming services at right now. Just name them off the top of your head.
Yeah, like Peacock, Disney Plus, Hulu, Netflix, Apple TV Plus. Yeah, so many options.
What does Disney Plus have currently coming out this Christmas?
Soul.
What does Netflix have pretty much this entire year? What does HBO Max now have for the entire rest of the year? There is no real waiting. It's already happened. That's the thing.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Again, and this we're going into the fact that this is bleeding into specifically with this because of the situation that we're in to what would have been before a full-on theatrical release. You know, where the intent was to push people to go out into the movie theaters and do it. It's like, you want to go watch this really cool movie? Okay, but you got to go over there to do it. And when they're not able to do that because, people are just going to say, well, no, I'm not going to. I'd be like, fine, okay, you can do it from here in your home.
Yeah, and so...
And then looking at how it was, how it was handled at the beginning of all this, it was made pretty clear. People weren't happy with the price tag of what it was going to take to keep it, at the same kind of profit as it would have been for a theatrical release.
That's why a lot of them started going with the subscription services. Like
exactly, and
like here's the
that's
thing.
what I'm saying.
I sympathize with that because guess what? I'm the fool that subscribed to both of these. And I got ripped off on this one in particular.
I see.
Yeah, screw Cinemia. But yeah, I get where they're coming from with the price tag. That's why once both of those companies fell under, Regal and AMC pretty much went with their subscription service. And honestly, I was working fine with that. I think if just keeping up with that, they were making good business. And then this all happened, and pretty much, like, here's the argument I heard. The argument I heard from, say, Double Toasted, formerly Spill.com, shout out to them, but the argument I heard from them is that essentially, because of what this is going to do with theaters, it's going to force a lot of major chains to up their service. Like no more bad bulbs, more strict enforcement when it comes to theater manners, probably better food. It's just going to force them to make better service. But here's the thing, though. the only way they're gonna even be able to do that is to invest in the cost that they've already lost. That because of Trump, they haven't been getting any funding to just keep afloat. So they've already been closing down theaters just in order to stay afloat. And then you want them to invest more costs in order to actually make people want to go.
Exactly.
And that's just with the change that it's even possible. Like, pretty much the way I see it, like Scorsese was kind of full of crap when it came to his statement on the MCU, but he was right about one thing: is that a lot of the movies that he was interested in, and a lot of people like me were interested in, that we would actually pay to go see in a theater, now are going to be exclusively onto streaming services because they're going to be the only ones that even screen those. And those tend to be the movies I'm actually interested in over the blockbusters because you can see those anywhere. But now it's going to be the only thing you see anywhere if this is the case.
Yeah. Although to be like fair, to HBO Max, they, Warner is saying they're only going to be on the service for a month, and I think that's kind of how they're trying to hope that the movie theaters don't go completely nuclear. What I think they might also end up doing, like I've been hearing reports that for Wonder Woman 1984, they're giving like a very generous, like more than usual cut to the movie theaters. So something that could hurt Warner in this particular case is that they're not going to make as much money from this as they would if they just released it on the big screen, both because of that and also because compared to other streaming services like Disney Plus, HBO Max doesn't have too many subscribers in comparison in the streaming wars. I can't think of like any reasons why it costs too much. And also, and here's the other thing. Here's the other thing they recently just did. They got rid of the free trial, which I don't know why. I don't know why.
Here's the thing. I get that because essentially they're pretty much saying like, look, we are essentially providing you we're not providing you streaming material movies. We are giving you full damn blockbuster. Therefore, you have to pay pretty much the price of what you used to pay for a ticket, which fair. It's better than when Disney tried to charge you $30 extra just to see something on their streaming channel that was already something you were paying for.
And wasn't very good, I might add.
Yeah. Screw me along. But yeah, basically, I get where they're going with this. Like, you want to eliminate the free trial because you're putting in all of your actual productions into this. Fine, I get that. What I'm just not getting with this is, why are you planning to do it for the whole year? Because
meanwhile, I'm just sitting here happy with my HBO Max subscription. Enjoying Watchmen, enjoying Doom Patrol, the Cartoon Network stuff.
You're gonna get your Snyder cut. You're gonna get your Snyder cut.
Yeah, but that's another incentive because people go on and on. We want to see the Snyder cut. I've heard like everybody talks about that on the internet.
Which Snyder cut for which movie?
Justice League.
Oh.
Yeah.
I ain't here for Justice League. It's fine. But
yeah. But maybe we should talk a bit more about like the movie theater experience itself, because for me, and like as much as like I'm personally cool with this deal, I'm at the same time, I want to go back to movie theaters when the pandemic goes away. Like, there's a reason why when Stephen, when you asked us, hey, you want to go see Rise of Skywalker 1917, and I said, yes, it's because I wanted to see those movies on the big screen, and they look really great. And I mean, definitely movie theater sound and picture is much better than what I could get on my iPad. But as for me, movie theater experience me personally doesn't bother me too much. The worst is that I might see a couple people like down in the aisles below, like texting, but that's about it. Or people cheering during Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
I think a lot of the complaints I hear about it. Yeah, a lot of the complaints I hear from people are actually during they often are exclusively when the theater prices are most popular. Because here is the secret all of those complaints you have when it comes to your theater experiences, there's a really simple option. Just go at matinee time because no one is there. In fact, if you're watching a kids movie, even better. Never watch those when kids are actually able to go. If you watch them around those times, you're pretty much almost always guaranteed a theater space just for you, and you can just do whatever you want in there. It's a win-win for you. As for me, if I want to go with the crowd, oh yeah, I'm gonna be paying for the IMAX ticket on a Friday night because sometimes I do want a bunch of screaming crowd members. I mean, that's pretty much why anyone went to see Endgame on opening night. They want the screaming crowd.
Yeah.
And I think that's more so what we're talking about here in the sense of what we as moviegoers are going to be missing out on, you know, because I mean, let's say going in at matinee time, sure, okay, you get the bigger screen, there's not that many people, but I mean, you can get that relatively anywhere, obviously not as big of a screen, but other than that, most of it is recreatable. It's the experience of being there with a large group of people who are just as invested in the film as you are that makes the experience so unique, you know, and the fact that that's what's at jeopardy at the moment, just because we're not allowed to do that right now. I think that's the biggest question here, in the sense of we want to get back to the people that we were connecting to through these events. You know, same thing goes for conventions. Same thing goes for theme parks.
Now, at the same time, I do get what some people have complaints with. Like one of the things that High Top Films mentioned is that pretty much what ruined a lot of the theater experiences for him is when you're in a crowd that obviously doesn't give a shit about the movie. And fair enough. If you're paying to go see a movie and you're with people who obviously don't care about what they're watching, and that can pretty much ruin a movie experience, especially for something you paid for. So I understand that. But here's the thing, though. Are you going to if you go to the theater as often as I used to, when I could actually use my Regal account? How often are if they're giving that little crap about a movie? How often do you think you're gonna see that person for that movie? Probably not a lot. They're probably there because they just want to waste time that they have to spend. But more often than that, at least for me, I haven't had as much bad experiences when it comes to theaters because I just know when to go to the theater to avoid those kind of people.
Yeah. And I would say,
and even as somebody like I go at any random time, or what I used to, and it would be anything from going with you guys to like going with my family who's really just into it because they hear that something is cool. It's like, yay, fun, you know. And I think probably the closest I've had to a negative experience wasn't even because of the people who were there. You know, we went to go see Coco, and you remember how they had that big
the Olaf Frozen short.
The long short. It was a short.
Oh.
Like, okay. And my mom was like, wait, are we in the right theater? I'm like,
yeah.
Yes. But other than that, it's like, you kind of have to go out of your way in order to get yourself into an experience like that, because it's like,
I mean, here's the thing, like, I'll give a counterpoint though to what High Top said about that particular thing. If you're in a bad movie, there is nothing more exhilarating than being in a crowd full of people who don't give a shit about the movie.
That too. Because
here's the thing. This is pretty much the last of these free screenings I went to. But I went to a free screening with a bunch of people to go see a film that doesn't even have a release date anymore because of this, called Fatale by Dion Taylor. but it's by the director who he does a lot of these low budget thrillers with bad acting, but it's like an all black cast or so. And
Okay.
oh my god, the film was so bad that pretty much the entire this was a packed theater because it's a free screening. Like people, not just a free screening, you get paid if you manage to get inside. So pretty much it's a packed theater of basically what I can only describe as a live riff track with a full theater. It was amazing. Like
That sounds
everything that could go wrong
glorious.
in the movie suddenly was just the best comedy you've ever been to. It's the closest I've ever been to a screening of The Room. I love
That sounds
Mhm.
beautiful. And I
Yeah.
think you make a good point there. Like, that's kind of part of enjoying the experience, too. It's like, because if a lot of people are disliking it, you're kind of probably not liking it either. So it's like, oh my God, okay, I'm not alone in this.
I imagine that's how it goes whenever people go to see a Tyler Perry film.
Ow.
I see.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I guess another question I wanted to ask was the concern of what if, like, do we think that other studios might give this try? Because the thing about, like, for me as a person who's been following, you know, all these studios putting their movies, some of their movies on like video on demand or streaming, is that it's not as straightforward a path as I expected. Like I remember when Universal and AMC, you know, they had their big, like, you know, fight a while ago, saying AMC was like, we're gonna ban Universal movies that go to video on demand.
You
And
know
when they
what's
made
funny? You know what's funny? Because of that whole situation, we have to call Trolls World Tour the most historically significant film of 2020.
yeah. So
That was the first one to make the call. So now it is actually a stain in my film watching career that I have not watched Trolls World Tour because that movie changed cinema.
Meanwhile,
Yeah.
I was quick to catch on and go watch it after I heard. I'm like, oh, okay.
hey, so it helped the
I
movie in
watched
a sense.
Scoob. And I'm like, well, I might as well watch Trolls World Tour now. Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, as I was saying, but when Universal and AMC were like, you know, hey, we're going to agree to shorter theatrical release windows, Disney was like, nah, we don't want to go down that path. So that was why I was saying, I think that's why I'm like in the road where I'm a bit more like sort of enthusiastic.
Oh, no.
Wait, did you hear me back there? Yeah,
Yeah,
but yeah,
I
that was why I think that's why I
It
feel.
kind of cut off on my end. I don't know if it was just me.
Yeah, but yeah, so that was, I think that's why I'm going down the road where I'm not nearly as cautious myself. But the real big question is, do we think other studios might? And what's making people nervous is that Disney's going to have an investor meeting on December 10th, and there's speculation that they're going to announce some more movies, like that weird Cruella movie they're doing is going to get an online release. So
Why would they make a here's the thing,
Cruella?
why would they make a Cruella movie when they have already had two with Glenn Close?
money. That's all I can say.
I can
Yeah,
kind of
Cruella
see
with Emma Stone.
There is a fascination with Disney villains within the the fandom.
I totally
I
get
can
that.
see that, but at the same time, it was like I don't know.
Yeah, not to get off topic, but it sounds like, I mean, I'm not really sure myself. Like, I've heard Emma Stone is in the movie, and that apparently it's going to focus on like Cruella. I think I heard that like it's going to focus on like Cruella's younger days or something like that.
I'm smelling like a working off of Maleficent kind of vibe.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
what they're doing, and I'm
Uh-huh.
just like, but anyway, getting back to the topic, like, do we think that like other studios might try this, especially if
They already have, but I pretty much answered that they already have.
Mhm. But I mean, like, do you think we might see a thing where Disney's going to say, we're going to put our 2021 movies on Disney Plus, or
They're already
Universal's
thinking-
like,
They're already thinking of doing that for Black Widow because of the whole situation with Wonder Woman. That's the thing.
I see.
I think the reality is that we're going to see that coming, right? Like it's pretty much here, if not almost. The question I see more specifically is it going to stick?
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
because
that's a real big
going
question,
to
too.
determine. That's going to determine, because right now we're talking about something that is quote unquote temporary.
Yeah.
What happens when they see that this has actually worked out really well? That's going to be the big. That's going to be the thing that makes or breaks it. Because if
Yes.
it does stick and people enjoy it, past the simple, oh, this is just cool while we wait for everything to get back to normal.
Yeah.
Because we're going to see, are the families going to have the reaction that we expect? Are we going to have more people who, just simply because they'd rather just enjoy it in the comfort of their home, are going to do it there? Because there's so many reasons one could decide to do it from home. Just as much as there are some very important and critical reasons why we would still want to go and do it at a movie theater. So the question is if it's profitable. More importantly, if it is profitable, the companies are going to want to continue this.
Yeah, because they're going to want to go where the money, goes
exactly.
upon.
Looking at it first and foremost as an ability to stay in the market, and if it's going to be staying in the market or helping out something that's helped you to stay in the market for a while, it's like, well, I'm sorry. Which is like I said, I it's not that I don't feel for this. In fact, I myself miss the experience of going to a movie theater.
Yeah. Same here. I agree, Gabby.
It's not that there's just no interest in it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the question of what's going to be the response of the general public, because the general public is going to be what mainly determines what happens in this instance.
Yeah, and I think for me, especially if more and more studios do even more than what they're doing now, putting even more movies, and if the general, then it would make me even more nervous myself. It's like, oh no, movie theaters are probably going to get niche, or if this becomes successful,
I think another reason why it bothers me in particular is this. For a long time, we've seen this trend, particularly with these blockbusters, that are pretty much even to this day, in spite of this whole situation with the coronavirus, to this day are very much trying to appeal to, say, the Chinese market, essentially.
Right.
And essentially, if this is the case where a box office itself is going to be close to extinct, even domestic films are pretty much gonna be on the lower end when it comes to actual profit. It really is now gonna be officially if your movie really wants to make a profit, it does have to now go to the places where theaters are actually manageable at all.
Right.
Here's an example I want to put to here. That's really a thing. You can see in the back that I'm pretty much a full weeb. So anytime for a long time that I was able to go to one of these 1 day or 1 week screenings when it comes to anime films, I would go even if they were not added to my Regal account, because that was the only way to actually get to see one of those films on a bigger screen. What ended up happening was two situations. One was that, thankfully, the Made in Abyss movie did get a virtual screening, but the third Fate Stay Night film didn't. So pretty much that one, in order to even get a viable copy to even see, I would have to wait until next year to see when the Blu-ray is already out. Anyone else who wanted to see it officially is kind of screwed. And I mentioned this in particular because guess what? Right now in Japan, the Demon Slayer movie is out. That movie is just 3 billion yen away from beating the worldwide, not the worldwide, but the whole entire Japanese growth of Spirited Away.
Mm-mm.
During
I
a
heard.
pandemic, they are close to getting their highest grossing movie. And that's just in Japan. If you want to go around the world right now, any place that handled the coronavirus better than us pretty much has their theaters open now. And because of that, they're thriving when it comes to their film industry.
Mm. Yeah, I think that was also why Warner made it a point to say that they're still going to release these movies in international markets because as of right now, HBO Max is only exclusive to the States. So, yeah.
I bring in I brought in the heavy hitters for this section. I've been thinking about this a lot.
I mean, yeah, no, and I'm right there with you. I mean, I think I even remember hearing some people trying to ask Hayao Miyazaki what he thought about it. He's like, I don't care. Good for
I'm
them.
thinking of trash.
I'm thinking of trash. It's like, I mean, yeah, no, and I think what we're looking at here isn't necessarily, for example, that you know, oh, gosh, I had this thought out now, and it just went. But the point being that it's sad seeing other people, you know, like in other instances, because people managed the pandemic in a better way, that we are not seeing the same effects that it's having over here as far as the economy goes. And particularly looking at it through the lens of cinema. And I think this is going to be really big in the sense that either somewhere else could potentially pick up on being the, you know, the head, you know, like the one to beat in cinema, you know, like in making cinema, or what makes a film successful is going to potentially go through a some level of change. What level of change would be another question to ask, but that's to be seen, you know.
Yeah. I guess another thing I wanted to ask was do we think that I know this is kind of a weird question to bring up, but do you think that this move could affect like movie budgets going forward in terms of like could it affect how much it costs to make
Potentially.
them?
Oh,
I think so. If not how much it costs to make a movie, I'd say more importantly, how much studio is going to be willing to give to make a movie. Just because if they're not going to be able to make the profit that they would want in order for the budget that would make the movie great, they're more than likely going to try to cut corners to much of the director's dismay.
Yeah, oh, and yeah, that could also this move I also heard could piss off like filmmakers.
Absolutely. Filmmakers are probably going to feel the blunt of any of this, particularly here in the US.
Yeah. Yeah, and even though they continued shooting the next Jurassic World movie, they actually wrapped up, granted with like COVID regulations to make sure everyone's safe. I kind of get the sense that, you know, at least until like the pandemic goes away, it could put those sort of like big budget movies at risk.
oh, let me put it this way. Here's the thing. I have not liked the Legendary Pictures releases for Godzilla. Not Godzilla 2014 and not Godzilla King of the Monsters. I think they have a problem of constantly trying to cut away from the action to focus on the people. But when I saw Godzilla vs. Kong on that list when it came to HBO, I died a little inside. Because kaiju movies in particular depend on being able to see from an angle that emphasizes size. And just the fact
Yes.
that there is going to now be that temptation to watch it on a screen that is as big as pretty much the face you're seeing here right now, it makes me die a little inside.
I see, yeah.
I
And
can
yeah, I
see
still
that.
remember,
Yeah.
yeah, and I remember even just seeing like the Gareth Edwards Godzilla movie. I know you and me, Stephen, we went to see it, and we didn't even go see it in IMAX. It was just in like standard 35
Regular
millimeter
theater.
theater. It was, the size, the size really comes across, like, just how massive like Godzilla and the monsters are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, granted, as you pointed out, Stephen, the stuff with the characters was really kind of boring. But when it got to the action, it was, it really comes across. Even on like, not even on an IMAX, and even on like just standard 35 millimeter, it's really
Yeah.
insane.
Right. Again, and these are going to be the kind of questions that are going to come up. As kind of, are they going to stay away from stuff like this just for the sake of like saving on budget? Are we going to see?
I don't think it's gonna even be a budget. I think a lot of those movies, like unless it has international appeal, they're straight up not gonna get made. Whatever
I think that's very much more likely.
whatever budget
Yeah.
that they may have is gonna be dedicated into those other projects.
So projects like the MCU movies.
I don't even know if it's gonna be the case of the MCU movies, because one thing is, I think like I honestly think that people have started to get tired in a very similar way up until the Mandalorian came along. In a way, gotten tired of the MCU the same way that they were about Star Wars, because a lot of what kept the momentum for those films was like, don't worry, like you got to see this right now, because in a couple months, a new one is going to be out, and it might even replace the movie that's just the episode that's here right now. Now that there's no longer that rush, I think some of the hype for the MCU is going to die down. Unless they manage to really score well with those TV series they have for Disney Plus,
Yeah, like WandaVision and so forth.
which somehow still didn't get released.
Yeah, because I know Disney is still running around advertising WandaVision.
Yeah, I remember that had like a kind of like it just popped out really big. A lot of people were talking about it when the trailer came out.
Yeah, I
and
think
I just kind of stopped hearing about it. I'm like, wait, what happened?
Yeah, I think the reason why, like, I think all of that has already been made, but the thing is, they've been constantly fighting for, like, should we release wait for Black Widow to be in theaters, or should we wait for it? Should we just release it now? Because I think a lot of what they're trying to mix with the hype of those television series is to watch it alongside the main movie, or even hype up the movie. But now that it's a question of if the movie's ever going to even be released in that way, they're still trying to figure out, like, okay, do we just all release them all at once as a package?
Yeah, that is a big question.
Yeah, I see. So, yeah, I'm trying to think of what else to say. I think I've already covered my basis as far as questions for this discussion. Did you guys have anything else you would like to add?
I'll end my section as this. Mark Kermode said when he went to see Your Name in IMAX, he mentioned that a movie can be a good movie can be appreciated in any aspect ratio. A good movie can be appreciated in any format. And I do agree with that to a certain extent, despite all my mentioning about, like, oh, the impact of a big screen or an atmosphere. That's fine. But my counterpoint is this. The fact that the closest that we'll ever have to a communal watch experience would be pausing the movie to continue a Twitter thread is probably the saddest I could ever feel about this situation. Because you can manage who gets to actually join your Discord server when you're actually streaming a movie. But the fact of the matter is, unlike with a movie theater, when it's good, you aren't gonna actually be able to replicate that experience where you're both immersed into the film and can know that there's people around you that feel the same. It's always going to be a distraction no matter what.
I see what you mean. Gabby?
Yeah. I mean, as somebody who's been doing that off and on throughout this, I can agree. You know, it's not going to be quite the same. I mean, obviously, yeah. Like I think I've taken most importantly advantage of stuff like the stream watch option that they've added to Disney Plus in order to keep up with The Mandalorian and still be able to watch it with my boyfriend and his brother. But obviously, that's not going to amount to the same experience of what a massive communal watch is. You know, that is embedded in the experience of going to the movie theater on a release night. But I think to some extent we can have hope in that when the opportunity comes, people will come back to at least a few of the films in order to do that. You know, whether this is going to be a complete deviation from the movie experience as a whole, I think is debatable. Is it going to be difficult? Absolutely. Though we have to take heart in that there is still in the hearts of many people the yearning to bond over this material, you know, in large groups in person. The chanting, the conversations, the events, everything. I think there's still going to be an interest in it. It's probably just going to change, and I think that's the scariest part of all of this. Is like, how is it going to change?
Yeah. And like I said, it's really going to depend on how well this works for HBO Max and if studios are going to jump on this even more. I'm still wondering, what is Disney going to announce on December 10th? Like, are they going to be the one who does the same thing, or will other studios even more? I know we talked about, yes, they're already doing it with things like Soul and the Mulan remake, but will it go even further? So we'll have to see. I mean, like I said before, I'm cool with this as a person who's reviewed some of these movies that came to streaming services and video on demand services. I do want to get back into theaters when things become safer. Yeah.
I can agree. I too also, when things become, safer, I would definitely be glad to go back to the movie theater. I know a lot of my friends would as well.
Mm-hmm.
I know you two guys would probably both be very interested in going back into the movie theater.
I honestly wished I could go as often as Steven, to be honest, because I only really go when you guys ask, or if my family wants to see either a really big budget movie, or if it's something popular, or if it's a Crazy Rich Asians, to be honest. But I wished I could go for the more sort of Oscar worthy movies. If I had the chance to go see, that Mr. Rogers movie, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
Oh yeah,
I would have gone to see it on the big screen, starring Tom Hanks and Emperor Bellows. So yeah,
here's the perk of when you get to watch movies like me. You get to be that one asshole every Oscar is going, no, this should have been nominated. I thought that opening night, this should have been nominated.
Yeah.
And then there's me being like, wait, that was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, where did all these names come from? I didn't even watch half of them.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I sort of know the thing. It's sort of for me, it's oh, I know half these movies. I'm like, where are the? Well, I've never heard of these other half. Yeah.
You want to know what the saddest thing is about this whole that whole example? the Oscars are insisting that they're still gonna have a physical celebration, even if it puts them at risk, despite the fact most of those guys and gals didn't even watch it in a theater. They got sent it screeners. So nothing's changed for them when it comes to how they watch the movie, if they even watch it at all.
As if I didn't dislike the Oscars already enough.
Hey, they voted Parasite into Best Picture. I'll give them props for that.
That's probably the most exciting thing I've heard to come from the Oscars in a very, very long time. Otherwise, I've just been like, okay, cool, whatever.
It's like, yeah, for me, the reason, like, yeah, I'm not into Oscars, it's just like, I'll look at who won on Twitter, but I'm not going to watch the show, basically. Yeah.
Mostly because I don't have cable, so
I mean,
I
for
can't
me,
watch
it
it.
has a lot. I mean, I'm very kind of like cynical in that sense. I'm the, cynical kind of crazy person going, in fact, you all have biases. You I don't like you. And it's like, okay, gee. It's like, I'm the person pointing out how most of the people in the audience are like old white men kind of deal, if that makes it clear. But I mean, obviously, yeah, like if something very, very particularly interesting comes out from the Oscars, that's pretty much the only thing I care about.
Yeah,
so,
but yeah, we could say
Parasite, obviously big win. And I guess if we move towards more of that kind of thing, I might get more interested in the Oscars, but I don't know. I don't like the sound of what you just said, Stephen. And not because you said it, but because of the people who are deciding to do something that I'm like, no.
yeah.
yeah.
So, okay. So, yeah, we've gone to a lot of places in this discussion. We'll see how it goes for HBO Max. So, yeah, so thank you again, Stephen and Gaby, for coming on.
Thank you so much for
Discussing
having
HBO
me.
Max.
It's been so long. I'm so glad to be back on here, guys. I'm so happy.
Yeah. So thank you again, Stephen, for coming on.
Yeah. Nice
right.
having you there.
So until next time, this has been Stephen, Gaby, and Blood Moon Bobby, and we'll see you guys later. Bye. Hi everyone, thanks for watching this Blood Moon Bobby video. Like and share the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel to see more of my videos, and ring the bell to be notified about my latest uploads. Don't forget to follow me on social media for my latest opinions and video updates. I hope to see you next time.